and welcome back to the KingDumb podcast. I am your host, KingBullet, and if you're new to this podcast, this is a podcast where I talk about anything and everything that I find to be interesting, or I might have a little insight onto, or I just want to talk about. And today, I'm going to talk about something that probably still holds a little bit of a sting for some people, and that is the former streaming platform Mixer. So, for a lot of you who probably don't know, Mixer, which originally was called Beam, was the biggest up and coming streaming platform and the only streaming platform to ever really make Twitch sweat a little bit. And it started out as Beam with two friends, James and Matt, who ended up wanting to make a streaming platform, and they made it, and they made Beam, and it was very successful. So successful, in fact, because of their FTL technology, which took away the 30-second delay that pretty much every stream had up until that point. Because of that, Microsoft bought Beam and then turned it into Mixer, and Mixer was born. Now, Mixer was a huge platform that a lot of people found a lot of success on, and was really the only platform that people really wanted to gravitate towards if they weren't on Twitch. The algorithm was pretty good. The overall the home screen and the featured was good. The Mixer staff really worked with a lot of the people on the platform. Their support was really good. Like, there were flaws, obviously, but I might be a little bit biased, but every time I interacted with anybody from Mixer as a partner, it was super easy to talk to them and really open, like I was talking to a person, not some crazy guy from a corporate giant kind of deal, right? And I know that wasn't everybody's experience, but if Mixer was such a wonderful, amazing place, why did it fail? Why is Mixer no longer around as far as a streaming platform goes? Well, to be able to really talk into that in a very insightful manner, we have to take a look at the rise and fall of Mixer. Now, I'm going with specifically Mixer because Beam was bought out by them relatively early on. And so I started streaming in 2017, and at the time I only knew of the platform Twitch, but as I started researching content creation more, I saw Twitch, I saw YouTube, and then I also saw Mixer. And Mixer was really nice because they had integrated with the Xbox and made it so that you could, for the first time ever, go live straight from your Xbox. And this opened up an avenue for tons of content creators to get their start in this day and age. A lot of content creators started because they went live directly from their Xbox One. Now, that's great, but that also caused a little bit of issues, and I'll get to those in a second. But as these content creators started to go live more and more, a lot more people were starting to watch more and more, right? The word of mouth really started to spread about this platform that everybody was seeing all the time, like, oh wow, what is this Mixer thing? What they're talking about this Mixer thing. What is it? What is it? What is it? Right? And then it eventually got to a point where people were just watching there, and then the concurrent viewer count of the platform started growing because of this very successful launch of them having streamers be able to go live straight from their platform or straight from their Xbox, from their console. And it created this boom of a ton of new people coming in, stream wise, viewer wise, everything. For me, I started, as a lot of people did, directly from the Xbox. And I streamed a little bit here and there, but I quickly gained momentum. And I started my first stream on August 8th, 2017. And by January of 2018, I was already at the part where I could get partnership, right? Like, I was able to actually become a Mixer partner in just a couple of months. And usually that's unheard of from a platform, but I was able to do it. And that's because I played the algorithm really well. I was really hungry to be able to do the things that I wanted to do and get to the places that I wanted to get to. And I was working all the time for it, right? So I didn't end up getting actual partnership until about mid 2018. And in 2018, that is what I would consider the peak time for me of Mixer. And during that time, we had a lot of really cool game releases, like Star Wars Battlefront 2 had just come out. We had Hello Neighbor officially come out in a 1.0 release. Like a whole bunch of really hyped up games came out. And Mixer was always all about interacting and getting their partners to do fun interactive stuff that is different, right? And I specifically remember I was streaming a lot of Battlefront 2, and I went and raided a someone, and he was in a stormtrooper onesie, right? And we laughed and had a good time. We became really good friends. We don't talk as much anymore, but he essentially helped make King Bullet into what King Bullet is today, because without him I probably would have never had the confidence to do half the stuff that I've done, right? But anyway, so I rated this guy and I was like, "What's with the Stormtrooper onesie?" He's like, "Oh, well, it's Star Wars Saturdays or whatever it was at the time. I don't remember off the top of my head, but they were like, Mixer wants their partners to wear onesies to help promote the Star Wars game because it's fun and it's goofy." And I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. That's the thing that I like to see. The platform is like interacting with its people. I like it." And I eventually got a Chewbacca onesie. I'm sure people have seen, or if not, then they probably will see. There's been quite a few streams or clips or videos where I'm in a Chewbacca onesie. And, Sea of Thieves came out, and for a while, Sea of Thieves was the biggest thing on Mixer, right? Like, that's actually the game that ended up essentially getting me partnership on Mixer, because with the same guy that I just mentioned, we would do the Stream of Thieves every Wednesday. We would do Sea of Thieves, sail around for a couple hours, go have fun, and then it'd be a really good time. I still have a screenshot of Mixer took a picture of us streaming and used it for promotion on their features page, because we were co-streaming, which is still not really worked out in a way that any other platform has been able to perfect it quite like Mixer did. But what the co-stream was you could have up to 4 people on the stream, and each one streaming to their own channels, but those channels would be up on everybody's stream, right? So if I was streaming with person 2, 3, and 4 on my channel, my people would see me plus person 2, 3, and 4. And it was really, really good, really, really well done. And yeah, so it ended up becoming a really, really awesome thing, right? And I remember, um I was I don't remember what I was playing. I think I was actually playing Sea of Thieves with a couple of friends, and I ended up getting a message, and I wasn't even partner yet, but it was a message that was like, "Dude, we're freaking rock stars." I'm like, "What do you mean? What's going on?" And I got sent a picture of me on the features page for co-streaming with the my friend, and I was like, "That's pretty awesome." He's like, "There's no doubt in my mind that you're gonna get partner this time around." I was like, "I don't know, man. They haven't really responded. It's been like a month. I'm not really having my hopes up." And but he's like, "No, it's gonna happen," and it did. It ended up happening. I got partnered July 4th, 2018, and it was awesome. I was really excited. I was a lot of fun. Like woohoo. But it was great. Like, for me and for a lot of people, 2018 was chef's kiss. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And then it wasn't. So probably around the end of 2018, early 2019, there started to come a lot of problems. The platform was starting to feel a little stagnant. And it's what a lot of platforms usually go through, where they feel their growth kind of stunted and it's not quite doing the success that they were hoping that it would do. And it got to a point where Mixer kind of felt like they had to make a move. And so Microsoft had a direct line into Mixer. There was a manager type person from Microsoft that was a part of the Mixer team, and that person was essentially in charge. And so they wanted to start trying to do things in a specific way. But there was a problem with a lot of that. So, step number one, or problem number one, was they were completely out of sync with the platform. They had no idea what the viewers wanted, what the partners wanted. They didn't know what regular streamers wanted. They were just out of sync. And they decided that they were just going to do it their own way. And their response to people disagreeing with that person was very poor. Um, at the time, there were a lot of streamers starting to be up and coming from, uh, I want to say, like the Puerto Rican region, uh, Central America, essentially. A lot of places that are, kind of overlooked and doesn't have a lot of viewer base, but they were starting to pop up. And so the people who did pop up for them were really popular. And there were a lot of people who were like, or there was one person in particular who was like, we need to lean into this. This is a market that could really help us out as a platform. And because they spoke out against some of the stuff that they didn't think was going to work, ended up getting fired from their job. And they were a partner manager. And like I'm sure there's some things about it where like they probably weren't, talking about the proper things, or like they were saying things that they shouldn't say, blah 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 blah. But they were fired because they had a different viewpoint at the end of the day, right? And this and I'm putting a large portion of the Mixer failing onto this person's shoulders. And you'll see why, or you'll hear why after I get through a lot of it. But this person was like, all right, we need to start getting new people onto the platform. And there were two options that they could do to really try to push for new people to get into the platform, or to pull new people into the platform. It was spend money trying to get outside deals from the platform, or invest more into your platform. And what they did primarily was they spent money to try to get more people onto the platform. So they bought Ninja from Twitch for a contract of like $20 million. But there was a problem. He went from like 400,000 viewers every Twitch stream down to 10,000, 15,000. Pretty much nobody from his streams ended up coming over from Twitch. They just found another streamer to watch. And the people who did come over wasn't a significant enough impact to warrant even anywhere even close to the 20 mil investment that they used. And so that was just not working. And so they bought more streamers, brought more of them over. They were giving contracts to these big names, hoping over and over and over again that it would start to generate some revenue. People would start coming over to the Mixer to watch their favorite content creator, and it just wasn't happening. And there were a lot of people who said, this isn't working. This will not work. We need to invest into our homegrown streamers. And the person was like, no, 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 that's not how it's gonna work. This will work. We're gonna throw money at it until it works. Why would we ever do anything else? Well, it didn't work. I don't know how to break it to you, but it didn't work. All right. This all started early in 2019. By mid 2019, they were like, okay, this isn't gonna work. So they brought out a new thing. They called it Mixer Season 2, and I'm not wearing it today, but I have a shirt because I was a partner during Mixer Season 2. They brought out a thing where the things that people generate passively called sparks, you could earn income as a streamer, as a partner from these sparks. And so it was a free way to support your favorite content creators. So like for me, I was able to get hundreds, if not sometimes close to $1,000 a week because of these sparks, right? And so it was great. Everybody was doing it. It was a hot thing. Everybody loved it. And up until this point, they still didn't have embers, which for future reference, embers are the Twitch bits equivalent. It was the same thing as bits on Twitch, right? One ember is 1 cent, that kind of deal. And so the only revenue that Mixer was really getting was from subscriptions, which was a 50-50, and sometimes a couple of ads. They were starting to get a little bit of ad revenue going, but it was only for certain people because the ads wouldn't run in different areas of the world because they didn't quite get the allowances for those areas just yet, and they were working on it. But it was something that they were working towards. And so this money was free money to their streamers, which was great for the streamers. A lot of people ended up going full-time content creation because of the money from Sparks. And it was a really good system. It really started to show a little bit of a shining light for Mixer. But at the end of the day, they still weren't making the money back that they needed to make back. And they still had all of these big contract deals that were just huge money pits that they never actually were able to convert into anything profitable, right? But this initial investment of the Sparks, it was a Spark Crystal, was doing really, really well. It had a lot of really, really good returns, and they were tweaking it so that, you couldn't get hundreds of thousands of dollars every week. Like if you hit this goal one week, then you might be brought up a little bit more for the next week to continue moving upwards and moving the goalposts, which is a good way to do it. You do your little incremental growths. You don't want to go from like, oh, well, you need 10,000 sparks to be able to earn $10, and then the next week you need 1,000,000 sparks to earn $10. Like, no, you want to do like 10,000, then 15,000, then like maybe 25,000, 50,000. Like, slowly build it up for these channels so that they could eventually get to the point where it was a lot harder to get the payouts, but because they were still generating these payouts, that means that these channels were generating more viewers, generating more interaction, and making the platform go in a positive direction. Even though it was very slight at first, it was going in a positive direction, which was big, what they needed to do. But it was too little, too late. The Spark system was only ever something that they could temporarily maintain. Like it was hemorrhaging Mixer money constantly, right? But they announced Embers and they said that Embers are coming. And because Embers were coming, people were like, "Oh, so the cost of Embers they might try to like even out the Embers versus the Sparks so that maybe they can start like breaking even if they have like Embers this much money and you have to earn these many sparks to get this much money." And a lot of people were thinking that's how they were going to make it nice and simple, nice and, you know, sustainable. But for a lot of the streamers, they were like, we've been promised embers and all of these other things for so long. Why have we not gotten them yet? And there was one reason. Microsoft still thought that they needed to put their money, resources, and time into other things. The Mixer staff were doing a fantastic job. They were doing everything they could to make stuff happen, but they needed to constantly get approval from Microsoft, and that could sometimes take weeks to do because they needed approval so that they could go and do something. And then by the time they finally get the approval, they're like, oh, well, the hype from this is already gone, because they would announce it, and then Microsoft would take like weeks to months before they approve it. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, why would they announce it without the approval of Microsoft? Well, that's because Microsoft won't approve anything unless that thing has enough hype around it to make it seem like it was worth approving. It's a very, very vicious circle, and so the systems just weren't working, right? And then a lot of stress started to become public between Microsoft and Mixer. So it was never confirmed, and it's my speculation. I could very much be wrong, but the two original creators, the ones who created the platform and made it what it was, left. They up and left. No claim on Mixer at all. And so a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, this doesn't bode well." And then they were like, "Oh, no, they just wanted to move on to other things." And like I appreciate the fact that a lot of people were like, "Yeah, they just wanted to move on to something new or something that they wanted to pursue." And both of them now are actually doing some really cool things. But I feel like there's probably something in there where they didn't want to create problems because they still loved Mixer, but they didn't want to create the issues that them publicly speaking about the problems that were going on behind the curtains be public. Like they just wanted to let it be. And I appreciate that. But they left, and when they left, Mixer plummeted. As always, don't forget to hydrate. So, how did Mixer plummet? Well, the two original founders of Mixer slash Beam had a clear direction that they wanted to take the platform. They wanted it to be fully transparent. The the streamers and the communities for the streamers come first above anything else. If they broke even or made just a very little bit of money, they were fine with that because they wanted the platform to be successful. For the most part. Again, there might have been more stuff. I'm not them. I never actually got the chance to like pick their brains about it, and if I did, they probably would not tell me the very personal stuff because I'm not that close with them. I talk to them here and there. But at some point, there was that big fallout. And when they left, the last like grain of power that Mixer had to fight against Microsoft for some of these things was gone. And the whole platform like turned upside down after that. There were a lot of issues. The company was cutting people at times. Like it was just bad. And you you could tell that a lot of people who worked for Mixer were stressed about it. But then something came to light that was not okay. There was a meeting that was leaked because one of the employees wanted to bring to light some of the stuff that was happening behind the curtains. And I don't know if it was the same meeting or if it was separate meetings, but there were two different things that happened that essentially put Mixer in the grave. And the first one was the platform was struggling. Everybody was worried about the future of Mixer, but the whenever people would be like, "Hey, we need to change something. This isn't working." The person from Microsoft was like, "Listen, I don't want to hear this negativity. You either find a way to fix it or you get out. You can either be part of the solution or part of the problem." And that's not good. Uh, I know a little bit of business sense, and usually when someone in charge says, if you're not a part of the solution, then you're part of the problem, that usually means the platform's kind of struggling and or the company in general is probably not going to last for very much longer. If that is your outlook and you're an owner of a business or even high up in the business, you have absolutely no hope for your business or your area of the business to succeed. Like flat out, just there's no hope. And so they went with that and they said that and I was like, ooh, yikes, and then the next thing came out, and as if the platform falling apart, which by the way, I called Mixer out on that stuff. Like I was like, listen, you guys need to change and get this stuff fixed or the platform is gonna fail. And I gave ways that they could do it, and they shadow banned me. I went from like 40, 50, 60 viewers every stream down to like 5. I had viewers message me while I was live asking why I wasn't live. Like full scale shadow ban me because I called them out saying that the platform isn't going to survive. Up until this point, people were like, "Oh, Mixer's fine. Mixer's fine. It's just a little nonsense happening in the background. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry." I feel like they were probably saying that because they were worried themselves and they didn't want to worry themselves. I don't know. But eventually it got to the point where I was like, okay, whatever. I'm just going to call them out on this stuff. And whenever I called them out on it, I got the shadow ban, and the people who I was close with, like literally every single streamer that I was close with, excluding maybe two, were like, "You're being way too negative. That this you need to have a little bit more positivity. You're too negative about this." Almost having that same mentality of like you either be a part of the solution or a part of the problem. I'm like, no, I'm being realistic. If a platform or a company is struggling and there's nothing being done to fix it, then it's gonna fail. And so I was shunned by a lot of my content creator friends because I was like, this is a problem. The platform is not gonna survive. And they're like, "Oh, you're too negative. I can't have negative people around me like that. Ooh, be gone." It was horrible. It was so ooh because so I'll get to why that's like so much here soon, but like So all that happens, right? And then after, not too long after that, they end up having another thing come out. I don't know if it was the same meeting or anything, but there was one line that really resonated with a lot of people. The same person who has been causing these issues throughout the entire time of Mixer's existence came out and said, and I quote, "The partners are like my slaves. They will do what I tell them to do." Um, if you didn't have like 10 red flags pop up in just that sentence, I don't know if we should be anywhere near each other, because that's a big problem. You just compared your streamers who are making your platform a profitable venture to slavery, which has been abolished for so many years. And I don't know how to tell you this, but it was a mixture of ethnicities, of skin color, of religious beliefs, whatever. There wasn't just white males there for partners. No, there were females, males, drag queens, and there's some people who they don't take kindly to being called a slave. Let's be honest now. That's a no-no. Like, I don't care if it's in passing or it's to your best friend or whatever. That is not something that you say. And then it was brought out to thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. And this was the person who was supposed to lead Mixer. Hello? Do you want to run that one by me again? And this person is saying all this stuff, and it took Microsoft like 6 to 9 months after Mixer shut down to finally fire this person. But anyway, those two things come out. Now the streamers and the community is worried. You start seeing a lot of people kind of distance themselves from Microsoft and from Mixer because of this stuff that's happening. There's still people obviously who are going around doing stuff, but this was like end of 2019, early 2020, and a lot of people were like, this isn't good. Yikes. And by July, I think it was July 23rd of 2020, Mixer had shut down, which sucks because that was like right at the height of COVID, which if Mixer could have made it to COVID, it probably would have survived. But because of all this coming out when it didn't survive. But the final nail in the coffin was the, it's not the, I think it's the Me Too movement. I'm sorry if I'm wrong on that, but the one where people started coming out about being sexually harassed and sexually abused, and a lot of people started coming out about this, and Mixer had a lot of people who were outed about it, and about 90% of the top 100 male streamers on Mixer, I would say, were outed for being sexual harassers or sexual abusers. Um, and there were some like there was one that I really looked up to, and I was like, man, I want to have streams like this guy. This guy's so cool. It's so fun. It's great. And then like I specifically remember I was reading because like I read through every single one because I wanted to know who to distance myself from, like who to get away from. If there was anybody that I knew that I was hanging out with that was a part of this, I needed to get away as quick as possible. So I read through all of them. And I specifically remember this because it hit me as such a shock because I never expected it. But they didn't name the person at all. And it was like this really long thing. And at the very bottom, they were like, it's taken me all this time to be able to say it, but fuck you. And then they named them. And I'm purposely not naming them because, yeah, they're terrible people and they should have never done that and everything else, but I feel like they've gone through enough. Every person who is named can no longer be a content creator or really have any kind of foothold in the gaming industry anymore because they lost game. Like there was one that was a game developer who was also a streamer. There were people who worked with different companies. Like they had their lives ruined essentially. They went to pretty much only being able to be a burger flipper. And I was like, I don't want to ruin, or I don't want to reopen the wounds that have started to heal even slightly. But I saw that and I saw the name and I was like, no, there's no way. This cannot be true because this person, like, he was a dad and like his kid would come up to him and be like, and like start tugging on his sleeve and he'd be like playing a really high intensity game about to win, and he would stop everything that he was doing even if it cost him the win to go be a dad. And it was like, it was so good and so wholesome. And then they did what they did, and it's like, I was torn apart about a lot of the people who were outed, but you know, it was so weird because then I was like, no, there's got to be no way, like, because there were people who were doing it just to defame people who actually didn't do anything wrong, and that ended up actually coming to light after like a year or so, right? But I was like, there's no way, and they had made a public announcement and like a public apology about it, and then that was it. They were gone. I was like, oh my god, this was real. And so a lot of these content creators were being outed for being these sexual predator people, and that's on top of the Microsoft employee calling all the partners her slaves, and if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And all of this was fresh in everybody's minds, and COVID started becoming a really big thing. There was like chaos everywhere. And so Microsoft did the only thing that they thought would be good. Instead of trying to fix the problems that had started to really appear and become a really major problem, they shut down the platform. And they didn't shut down the platform in the conventional, hey, we're going to be shutting down, and like the employees knew about it. They started to like shut things down. No, it was like they broke up with everybody on Twitter. Um, the employees didn't even know that the platform was shutting down until they read it on Twitter. Like they didn't get an official memo, they didn't get anything official. It was just, oh, by the way, Mixer shutting down. And so people were frantic and like scrambling and everything, and it was chaos, you know. The livelihoods of the staff and the streamers were just thrown out the window, like gone. It's like, oh my god, what even is this? It wasn't even like they had a warning. You know, the Microsoft tried so hard to make it seem like that Mixer is going to be around, Mixer's going to be around, there's no problem, and we're finding solutions to the point where they were forced to believe that it was fine. And so all of these people were now scrambling, and so like it was chaos. By this time I had already left Mixer and I had started on Twitch, but the thing that annoyed me the most was because I spoke out about Mixer originally and I had told them that their platform will not survive, I was shadow banned, and so my move over to Twitch or YouTube or wherever was covered. Nobody knew that I had done it. I had lost all of my viewer base. And the thing that really annoyed me with that was Facebook bought out as many Mixer partners as they could have. It was like, oh, hey, Facebook gaming is a thing. We started coming out. And Mixer sold the FTL system to Facebook Gaming, and Facebook Gaming was buying partner contracts and promising this, promising that. I wasn't even eligible for it because of my shadow ban. And so then the streamers who didn't go to Facebook Gaming, they went over to Twitch. And so Twitch started being like, "Listen, we'll bring you in. We'll, try to make it as much of a home as possible," because like Twitch was getting this massive influx of people right as there was already another massive influx of people because COVID started to get crazy. And it got to the point where like some partners from Mixer got partnered on Twitch even though they don't average anywhere close to what they needed to be partnered on Twitch, right? And it was just it was an insanity, right? Um but I don't know. Mixer going back to my original thing of why Mixer failed. Mixer failed for those of you who have been listening through all the way up until this point. I appreciate it. Mixer failed because of not one or two things, but a great many things. And I don't think people really have put a lot of thought into just how big of an impact something like this has. And the to this day, the streaming industry still remembers Mixer, and obviously a lot of the partners still remember Mixer, but like I went to PAX East one day, yeah, or in one of the days I had people coming up to me like, "Ah, that's Mixer. I used to love Mixer." I'm like, "I still do. It's gone, but I still love it." Like it was my home. It was a lot of streamers' homes, and a lot of people recognize the Mixer logo, the name, everything. It was so freaking good. But as with everything, eventually it fell. So, thank you guys so much for listening in, watching, whatever it is. I'm going to wrap this episode up here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think about if there were any other issues that I might have not seen or I might have overlooked as to what really put the last nail in the coffin for Mixer. And thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is on whatever platform it is that you're listening on. I try to bring out an episode every week. If you have any suggestions for topics, I'm always open for topics. Again, my name is King Bullet, and I will see all of you guys next time. Bye, guys!